Tell me about a time when you experienced paranormal activities, but nobody believed you. I'll go first. When my grandma passed in 2018, some of her children and grandchildren went to her house and took a few of her belongings. I didn't get a chance to go to my grandma's house and take anything because I had to work. I'll say this too, before my grandma passed, she did say she wanted her grandchildren and children to come to her house and take her belongings. She did not want us to throw anything away. Out of everyone, my mom ended up getting a lot of my grandma's stuff, like clothes, shoes, old pictures, appliances, and she put it in a box in our living room. After going through some of my grandma's old stuff, my mom decided that she was going to throw some things away. And mind you, my grandma always said never throw away her old stuff. But my mom was just like, a lot of this stuff is old. It's from like the 70s and the 80s. Bitch, she got no use for it, so why she gonna keep it? I remember telling my mom, I'm like, I don't think you should throw her stuff away. I think you should just like keep it like in a closet or in the garage or somewhere. But my mom was like, no, she don't want clutter. She's gonna throw it away. I'm like, okay, whatever. So later on that day, the same day that my mom and me had the conversation about throwing my grandma's stuff away, I'm sitting on the couch watching the Wendy Williams show. And in the corner of my eye, I see like a grayish shadow, not a black shadow. It's kind of hard to explain, but it was like gray, like a gray shadow on like the side of my eye. So I turn my face and I don't see anything. And also too, this shadow, what I saw is by the box where my grandma's stuff is. And next to the box of my grandma's stuff is a plant. And I kid you not, the plant started to move. The plant started to shake as if somebody brushed up against it or something. I sat on the couch and I literally saw the plant shake for like maybe like 1 or 2 seconds. I literally saw this plant shake for about 1 or 2 seconds. And I got up and I walked over to the plant. And next to the plant was my grandma's stuff. And on the floor, I saw one of my grandma's old scarves on the floor. And mind you, hours before, everything was in the box. And I was the only one in the living room. Now, when I tell this story, I get goosebumps, but back then, it was weird. I wasn't even scared. So the next day, I end up telling my mom and my dad, and the first thing they said, mind you, I'm Jamaican. Oh, I lie y'all tell. Why y'all lie about duppy? And duppy means ghost. And I'm like, I'm not lying about this. And they're like, yes, you are. You didn't see anything. It's all in your head. And I'm like, I know what I saw and what I experienced. So later that night, my dad burned out the house, which is what Jamaicans do if there's a duppy or a ghost in the house. And I'm just like, if y'all don't believe me, then why are y'all burning out the house?
Okay, y'all, so I'm gonna retell the Catman story. A lot of y'all have probably heard this story, but my old account is gone, so retelling it. So when I was like 14, I lived in Jamaica with my mom, and one night it was really late, like 2 or 3 in the morning. I was in the living room watching TV. My mom was asleep, and I'm hearing what sounds like cats fighting outside. So I'm just like, I wanted to see 2 cats. Like, that was my entire goal, bro. I thought that I was gonna see 2 cats fight. So I go out onto the veranda, which is like a porch. The way how the house is set up, I'm on the 2nd floor of the home. There's a first floor, and then the yard is out there. In our yard, we had 5 mango trees. 4 of them was on the right side of the house, and 1 of them was on the left side. So I'm looking at the left side of the house from the 2nd floor veranda. I thought it was 2 cats fighting, but I was wrong. There was 1 little white cat there, and it was like, the sounds it was making was like it was in pain. I'm thinking either the motherfucker is gonna give birth or it's like something's wrong with it. So then the cat starts getting into a stretching position. You know the position that cats do when like they just woke up, like they got their butt in the air and the front part of them is like stretched all the way out with their hands like that? That's what it was doing. I don't like, maybe I was just bored, maybe I was just in awe, but I didn't stop looking. Like I was just staring at it as this is happening. And then the fucking face of the creature begins to turn upside down. Like, I know when y'all are visualizing some shit like that, you think of the head doing a 360. Like, no. The face of the creature began to turn upside down. The face opened up like a flower, like peeling back. And mind you, it's 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. Street lights. I'm in Jamaica. I know the drill. Once I seen this shit starting to stand up, like stand upright, I went back into the house. Like it had been growing in size and changing and all this shit. But when it started to get up, I was like, yeah, I need to not be here. Walked back into the house and I just acted like I didn't see anything. And then maybe like 2, 3 minutes later, I looked through my living room window because the living room looked into the right side of the house with the 4 mango trees. So I'm looking through that window and I see a man in a white wife beater, a dark skinned, skinny man, white beater, walk out of my yard and off into the road. Once again, it's 2, 3 in the morning. Nobody's in my yard, bro. There's nobody in the yard. And after I seen that shit, I was sick for like 3 days. I was sick, like weak, can't eat, fever, chills, like the craziest weakness I've ever felt. Like weak, like I can't do anything type shit. And I can't keep anything down. Like it was horrible. And when I first told this story, a lot of people said to me, like, you got sick because you were not supposed to see that, and it knows that you saw it. So, listen, I just know I'm not looking for cat fights anymore, bro.
I'm back with another spooky story. And the Jamaicans basically said, oh, you thought Haiti was the only place with lugaus? Aha, hold my purse. We're gonna call this story the neighborhood dog. So apparently there was an animal going around terrorizing people, and turns out it wasn't an animal at all. So the girl who submitted the story, we're gonna call her Kai. Kai lives in Portmore, Jamaica. Now, Kai says as long as she was growing up, even as a little girl growing up, Kai says that she's used to her neighborhood having stray animals. The people in the neighborhood would even feed those stray animals, But there was this one dog that would come around. Kai says that there was something about this dog. He just made people uncomfortable. And the dog just had very realistic human features. Like the dog's eyes looked very human. And there's just a certain manner to the dog that just screamed human. And not to mention, this dog would get up and walk on its 2 paws. Just like little weird suspicious stuff. Now Kai says she's known this dog since she was a child. And for whatever reason, around the time that Kai turns 13, this dog would start showing up in her dreams. She would have terrible dreams about this dog. She had a dream that one day the dog chased her and bit her. One day she even had a dream that the dog was eating somebody's heart. Kai says she continued to have multiple dreams about this dog, and it would be back to back. The one that really broke the camel's back for her was when she dreamt that one night the dog somehow appeared in her room and attacked her and chewed off her face. Now, what was so petrifying about this is that Kai says that the dream felt very real. So while she was sleeping fighting this dog, she was not only feeling the pain in the dream, but when she woke up, her face was all bruised and scratched up. So finally, she decided to go to her parents about this dog and the dreams that she's been having, and her parents looked horrified. She said the concerned looks on her parents' face sent her into anxiety because what is really going on? Her parents, without telling her anything, told her get dressed. So she gets dressed and they head over to this guy's house who practices voodoo or obia. The voodoo guy told her basically how to dress her bed before she goes to sleep to avoid these nightmares from happening. So she had to use a specific type of sheet on her bed of a specific color, and then use holy water mixed with Florida water to bless the bed. He also gave her this sack full of herbs and like little rocks or crystals inside of it that would then keep her safe. And she was supposed to put that underneath her pillow every night before she goes to sleep. And she did, so that seriously slowed down the nightmares. Now, the sack of protection stuff literally lived under Kai's pillow. She never moved it. So there was no need for her to check every night before she goes to sleep. She would just go to sleep. One day she went to sleep like normal, and this time she has a dream. The dog is back. And this time, the dog was pissed. The dog started attacking Kai in her dreams again. And at this point, it's not just her face. This dog is attacking her everywhere. And Kai felt like she was going to die in her sleep. And she says as she's laying on the floor thinking that she's gonna die in her sleep, in her dream, she starts to see the dog transform into something. So the dog went from being a medium-sized dog. Now the dog is getting bigger and bigger. Shape of the dog seemed to be morphing. And out pops a man. The dog just turned into a man in her sleep. The man stood up and walked up to her in the dream, and this man told her, I want you to see my real face when I finish you. And the man proceeded to get on top of her and choke her in her dream. Long story short, she passes out in the dream, and next thing you know, she wakes up in the hospital. Apparently, she had gone into a coma for a week. Somehow, that night when she went to sleep a week prior, the sack of protection was somehow removed from under her bed. And it wasn't when she woke up that her parents decided to come clean to her about something. Kai's parents told her that her mom told her that dog is in fact her ex-husband. She said basically the ex-husband was a lugau and people caught on to that, including the mom. So the mom went to someone who's super powerful in the neighborhood to catch a lugau. What the person ended up doing was cursing the mother's ex. The curse was the next time he shapeshifts, He is going to stay like that forever. And true enough, the very next time the man shapeshift, he never shifted back. He just remained a dog in the neighborhood. Going after Kai would make a lot more sense after her mother explains this story to her after waking up from a weak coma in the hospital. If you guys enjoyed this spooky story, please go ahead and follow me on TikTok. I have a link tree on top of my TikTok page where you'll find my YouTube and my Instagram. I have longer, better spooky stories on YouTube, so you better go over there and subscribe. We're so close to 20,000 subscribers. Make sure you follow me on Instagram too, just so that I know that it's real. Duh. Portmore. I knew I liked the Jamaicans. Y'all are right up there with the Haitians.
I love y'all so much because I was hoping somebody would remember this story and ask me to tell it, because I literally, like, this is one of my favorite stories of my whole life. So when I was a little girl, I was in Jamaica, living in Portmore, and between houses in Jamaica, there's always like a concrete wall type shit, and some of them you could sit on top of it or even lay on top of it. 2 houses down from my grandma's house was our friend's house, and I was laying on their wall. So they was just like, we was just playing outside, like just outside, daytime. I'm laying outside, I'm fucking cloud gazing and shit. So I'm just laying there looking at the clouds. Mind you, it's a normal, cloudy, sunny day. Like, everything is fine. I start to see what looks like stairs, like a small amount of stairs, 3 or 4 steps, and an opening of some sort, and 2 orange figures. One figure stood at the top of the stairs. The other one was ascending the stairs, walking up them. And like I said, I don't know what was wrong with me as a kid. I didn't look away. I was just staring like in awe or some shit. I'm just looking. And when I tell you with the quickness, bro, I didn't see faces. I saw figures, silhouettes almost of humanoid figures. But I could tell with the quickness that they saw me, because their heads whipped around at me at the same time. Like, the movement of their head was the same time in my direction. The same moment, instantaneously, a huge fucking hurricane rainstorm happened. Like, that second, bro. The shit happened, and then it started fucking pouring. And it was pouring so bad. My cousin's friend was at our house. She couldn't even walk around the corner back to her house. Like, her house is probably like what you would call like 3 US blocks away. She couldn't do it. It rained all day and all night. Like, it rained so hard. It was just ridiculous. But hurricane season happens every year in Jamaica. Every year we deal with hurricanes and floods and shit like that. So this wasn't out of place. But I saw this shit right before, and immediately as soon as they looked at me, a fucking hurricane happens. And a lot of y'all be asking me like, oh, did you tell this person? Did you tell that person? Bro, I didn't start telling my mom shit like this until now. And she's mad at me that I didn't tell her a lot of the shit, because she's had experiences where she would have liked my input, as it would have helped her to cleanse the house better and shit. Because like I said, that house that we lived in was already messed up. And like in other situations, when I was a kid, I wasn't necessarily scared of what had just happened. I just made the connection, and I was like, okay, that's weird. Like, I didn't think like, oh, I should be afraid, or I should like talk about this to somebody. I don't know.
I feel like I'm going crazy because I feel like nobody else has this video on their For You page, so let me show it to you. I'm warning you, this is absolutely terrifying and creepy, and if it's nighttime, maybe don't watch this. Here we go.
Every night, I just come and stand up. And all I say, hey. All I say, woman. Hey. Hey. What she stand up there for? Hey, every night this one comes on up right, this one don't want to move. Woman, move.
Was that not horrible? Every second of that? Yeah, so that creator lives in Jamaica, as far as I was able to gather from his profile. And he says it's real. He believes it's real. I don't know if he thinks that's like a person, or if he thinks it's just like whoever lives there is like putting up this terrifying mannequin. Like, I don't even want to look at that. It's freaking me out so bad. Either way, can you imagine walking out of your house and seeing that?
Hey guys, so this is 26-year-old Desiree Gibbon from Queens, New York. She was a model, an aspiring filmmaker, and she received a degree in broadcast journalism. Desiree wanted to go to film school in Europe, so in October 2017, she decided to move to Jamaica. Desiree has family in Jamaica. There she would get support from them, and she will also start a bartending job. Also, her grandmother owned a hotel in Montego Bay, and that's where Desiree stayed. Just when things were going good for Desiree, her life was brutally cut short. On November 23rd, 2017, Desiree attended a Thanksgiving party. Around 11:27 p.m., Desiree is seen on surveillance cameras. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary, everything is just fine. She told the security guard that she would be back, but she never returned. Sadly, Desiree's lifeless body was found by a passerby in a town called Anchovy, and this next part I'm about to say is graphic. Her throat was slashed from ear to ear, and her spine was severed. Desiree fought for her life as there were defensive wounds on her legs and wrists. Investigators learned that Desiree had two phones. One was her main phone, and one was to make local calls in Jamaica. The night that she went out, she had her main phone, but her main phone was missing. 2 months after her death, her aunt received a call from Desiree's phone. When she answered the phone, it was complete silence. A few hours later, her aunt missed the call from Desiree's phone, and when she called her phone back, it was no longer working. On Desiree's body, there was DNA from both male and female, but there has not been any identification. Also, there wasn't enough news coverage on Desiree's death either. Also, her phone records were deleted. The investigators believe that they were not useful in this case. To this day, her family continues to fight justice for her, and I hope that her case will be solved. I think that whoever killed her most likely knew her. In cases like this, it really angers me that the police didn't even try. They literally just swept it up under the rug, and that was it. My prayers go out to Desiree's family, and I really hope that justice is served. Alright, y'all, that's it. What are you guys' thoughts on this case? And I'll be back to do more true crime videos for you guys.
Jamaica is full of scary legends and folklore. The rolling calf is described as a duppy, a human soul trapped on Earth, although it has characteristics similar to old world shapeshifters. In the context of the rolling calf, this duppy is a roaming spirit with no particular destination. As previously stated, this being is adept at shapeshifting. Outside of the bull, one of the more common appearances that this spirit will take is the goat. It will have 3 hooves and 1 human foot. It will have no horns, and it will have a reeking stench coming from it. One of these hooves is actually that of a horse as well, so it's 2 goat legs, 1 horse leg, and 1 human foot. The eyes glow red, and sometimes flames jump out of them, as well as flames from the nose. The rolling calf is covered in chains, all connected to 1 collar around its neck, and that chain drags ominously, almost as if it's escaped hell itself. It is also known to take the form of a brindled cat, which is probably the way that it would get humans to trust it most easily. It would get me this way. I mean, it's a cat. So that's the size range we're talking, from cat to bull. So the rolling calf is said to be created when the soul of a wicked person is trapped on Earth. Butchers, murderers, and Obia men return as rolling calf. Obia men, however, possess the ability to send a rolling calf after somebody. Unlike many other mythical creatures, the rolling calf is completely terrified of the moon, meaning that you're unlikely to see this beast on nights with a full moon or where the moon is shown very brightly on a non-cloudy night. On a moonless night, they are in search of sugar as they love molasses. In the daytime, the rolling calf will hide in caves near the base of cotton trees or in bamboo forests. The rolling calf may blow its bad breath on victims, which can lead to extreme illness and maybe even death. There's really no way to exterminate this entity, but there are ways to ward it off. Dropping many objects as you run away from it might compel the beast to stop and count them. Flogging the beast with a tarred whip held in your left hand, or sticking a knife into the ground in front of them. If all of that fails, using a mirror to reflect the moonlight and forcing them to see the moon will make them leave. They're terrified of the moon. However, as previously stated, you can only ward it off, and they are vengeful, so will come back with a vengeance. So if you do this, it's recommended to get out of that area as soon as possible, because it will be back. However, there is a different side to the rolling calf story. Some believe that the original story of the rolling calf is one of a boy who attempted to escape slavery, escaping the plantation but not actually making it out alive. He escaped with the chain still around his neck, a bitter reminder of the life that he lived. He would have escaped with a chain around his neck, a bitter reminder of the life he lived, and the cotton tree would have represented where him and other enslaved people would meet up to escape or plan their escape. The red eyes may symbolize the hardships of being enslaved and the rage that it would invigorate a person with dying that way. What do you think of the rolling calf? Is it a vengeful demon spirit, or is it a much sadder tale of a vengeful spirit that has a right to be vengeful? Anyways, that's all I want to tell you. Bye.
On a stormy night, tourists gathered around Rose Hall, the infamous haunted house in Jamaica. The guide recounted the legend of Annie Palmer, the White Witch, who had once ruled the plantation with cruelty and dark magic. They said her spirit still lingered, seeking revenge. As the group moved inside, the air grew colder, and the flickering candlelight cast eerie shadows on the walls. The guide led them to Annie's bedroom, the most haunted room in the house. Suddenly, the door slammed shut behind them, and the temperature dropped even further. A soft, menacing whisper filled the room, growing louder and more distinct. "Leave. Now," it hissed. The tourists huddled together, their breaths visible in the frigid air. One brave soul, a skeptic, laughed nervously and approached the mirror hanging on the wall. To his horror, the mirror reflected not his own face, but the ghostly visage of Annie Palmer, her eyes blazing with fury. She reached out from the mirror, her hand passing through the glass, clutching his wrist with an icy grip. The group screamed and bolted for the door, frantically pulling it open and spilling out into the hallway. They fled the house, the echo of Annie's laughter following them into the stormy night. From that day on, none of them doubted the dark legend of Rose Hall and its vengeful spirit. Stay tuned for more. Follow and let me know what you want to see next.
Guys, I don't even know where to begin. Let me just say, I bear demonic something to say. I experience, I bear witchcraft. If you don't believe in those things, you can move along. But my story is true, and it's my truth. And everything that I'm gonna say is real. Shortly after I left high school, I began to experience sleep paralysis. And if you guys don't know what sleep paralysis is, it's when your body is asleep but your mind is basically awake. But you can basically see the whole room. And I would see these different dark figures during sleep paralysis, like a part 2.
Let's talk about Obia. Some might call it the cousins of voodoo and hoodoo, but they are very different. So let's talk about it. Now, Obia is a religious practice based on combinations of multiple different religions. And modern historians believe that Obia originated from the Ashanti tribe of Africa on the Gold Coast, and that imported slaves introduced it to the Caribbeans around the 17th century. And it was extremely popular in the former British colonies of the Caribbeans like Jamaica, the Virgin Islands, Trinidad, the Bahamas, Barbados, the list may go on. And it all incorporates both spell casting and healing practices. And it also involves the art of casting spells and warning off evil and the conjuring luck of wealth and the protection of oneself. So for years, people would go to what they would call the Obia man and the Obia woman. So basically, like in voodoo, how they call it the root lady or the root woman or the root doctor, kind of the same concept. But some might even call them the scientist or the professor or the doctor, because these people are highly respected. You can go to these practitioners and pay them to do whatever you pretty much want. If it's to cast something evil on someone, or if it's for good luck or good fortune, they can do that for you. Like they can manipulate supernatural forces, but also a prominent role is played by healing practices, often incorporating herbal and animal ingredients. And in some cases, they like to try to provide justice for some of their clients to provide them with spiritual protection. And some cursing practices have been practiced as well. You know, if there's good, there's going to be some bad somewhere.
So they can evolve and make different objects to harm others or different poisons. Like I said, in voodoo and hoodoo, they have voodoo dolls that can harm others. There's their own different things in Obia. But the Obia man and woman played a prominent role in the Caribbean slave societies, and they functioned as community leaders and teachers to the African people, especially during the slave trade. So some colonizers was very intimidated and didn't like the fact that they had these Obia men and women because they could protect, men that was finna be punished or about to get harmed, or people that did some crime. The Obia men and women can protect that, and the colonizers didn't like that. So yes, it is similar to voodoo and hoodoo in some ways, but Obia doesn't necessarily center around different deities like voodoo and hoodoo. But let me know what y'all think about this religion in the comments. I feel like it's not really talked about as much as voodoo and hoodoo is, but it's extremely interesting as well.
Okay, so growing up as a Jamaican child, I'm Jamaican American, of course. I was born here. Parents are from Jamaica. So, we always heard, me and my siblings always heard that, Obia is bad, Obia is bad. So, recently, I knew Obia could not be bad. I'm like, okay, there has to be a real story behind what is Obia. I'm like, what is Obia? It's like, oh, it's bad things. Find out, in my early teens, Obia was considered witchcraft, right? I was like, okay, I didn't look into it until recently, a couple years ago. And I'm like, okay, this is when I really started doing research on this spiritual journey to understand exactly what's not only spiritual journey, but the underlying secrets of our history as well as Black people. So I figured it out that the first thing that shed a lot of light to me was watching a documentary on YouTube. I don't know if it's still there, but this is probably like 5-7 years ago, right? I came across this weird video, and it was a Jamaican man in Jamaica giving a lecture to some white students on religion, the religion of Christianity, right? And he first off said, I don't mean to offend anybody that that's a Christian or whatsoever, but what I'm going to teach you is facts, it's true, and I don't mean to hinder your beliefs. And as he went on in the video, he basically said everything that we know now, everything that we found out now, he's known years ago, okay? That religion is all about control, especially about Christianity, this, that, and the third. And it just opened my mind. I'm like, bro, if that's true, then what else are they telling us that's not true? And recently I looked into Obia, and I was like, okay, if witchcraft is real, it protected our tribes against the oppressor, then Obia is real too. But many people have used it against our own people. That's why some people don't like using it and practicing it and saying anything about it. That's the thing I learned recently.